Com. Today we get to talk to the first time ever Mississippi woman who is now a referee for FIFA professional soccer matches, and she's joining us, Miss Alyssa Nichols. Hey, Alyssa.
Hi.
Well, congratulations, girlfriend.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
What I'm learning, and I feel like our producer Rhino should be doing this interview because he is our resident soccer lover, but he's letting me have the reins with it. But for the rest of us who maybe doesn't understand how soccer leagues sort of, I guess, go up or the different ones, explain FIFA to us.
So FIFA is the governing body for international soccer. For example, you see the World Cup tournaments that are put on, the Club World Cup tournaments, youth tournaments on the international stage. FIFA is the governing body for all of soccer around the world, and they select referees from every country to represent their country on the international stage at those tournaments and events and games.
So it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
So I know you've been working at this for a really long time. I think I read where your officiating journey started 10 years ago, which looking at your picture, I can't believe you couldn't have been 10 years ago. So how did you sort of go into, I guess, the journey of being a referee?
Yeah, so 10 years ago, so I was 17 when I started. And I was actually playing high school soccer at Murrah High School in Jackson, Mississippi. And I had a teammate who was refereeing youth, kids, 7 and 8 year olds, just kind of, to make extra money on the weekends. It's hard to have a full-time job or a part-time job when you're in high school, and also a multiple sport athlete. So for me, it was like an easy option. It was flexible. When I was available, I could do it. So I kind of got involved that way. And then from there, I just had a bunch of different people invest in me and, help develop me. And they saw something in me at a very, early stage and were willing to encourage me and support me to get to this point. To be honest with you, when I first started, I didn't even know this was a thing. So it's kind of surreal now to look back that, 10 years ago where it all started and where it is now is definitely an amazing experience for me, for sure.
Well, it goes to show you never know when you start to encourage young adults at 17. I mean, you're inching towards being a young adult, definitely into your 20s,
yep.
Where that can sort of help lead them. Sometimes they don't know what they don't know about the different avenues
yep.
they can sort of take. Let's back up just a little bit, before that. What led you into soccer? You mentioned you did multiple sports. What was it about soccer that sort of drew your attention?
For me, it was just like multiple aspects from the game. Is just there's a challenge, so it's like physically demanding. There's a lot of running, but it also requires a lot of skills, so you have to practice and work really hard at it. Even if you're athletic, you still have to put in extra time to develop the skills. It's a team environment, so there's a lot of people on the field, so you build a lot of friendships. That I still have friends, that I play soccer with, that I still keep in touch with and hang out with now. And then you get to travel at that age too. You get to travel to different states and things and play against different teams from different areas. So you get to meet different people and you get to experience different cultures, different states. And it's a lot of traveling, so you get to see the country. So for me, that was kind of the biggest draw, was just there were so many different things that it provided, where I know a lot of other sports also provide those opportunities. For me, soccer was the one that stuck out the most. I did play tennis, and I also played volleyball and ran track. So I did a lot of different things, but for me, the team aspect of soccer and all the things that it brings was what really drew me in.
Do you remember refereeing your first game or match? Don't know the terminology. I think it's a match.
I do. Yes, I did. So I refereed my first game. Like I said, I was 17. It was in Southwest Jackson, which technically the club is in Clinton, but it's called Southwest Jackson Football Club. It was a recreational league. So the kids were 6 and 7 years old. We were on a small-sided field. And essentially, I kind of think about it as, at that time, I was learning as well as they were learning. And it's almost like you're coaching through the game because you're explaining to the young children, like, how to throw the ball in and how to kick the ball and, don't push. And so I do remember that, and it's funny because last year I actually had the opportunity to go to a youth game, and I just volunteered to referee because I was like, that experience is what, started it all for me. And I still think about that, and I'm just like, wow, that joy that I got from that first game is the reason why I'm still here. And is the reason why I kept doing it. So, I would never forget that game.
Alyssa, you mentioned that you didn't maybe recognize that there could be a career path for you in refereeing, or I guess a longer journey. Did you recognize then, even when you sort of got on that trajectory and people started to encourage you, that there maybe weren't a whole lot of women that were refereeing at the professional stage, or were you just sort of doing you and just looked up and realized you were the only woman or one of few around in the world of refereeing?
No, it was pretty clear to me at an early stage that there were not a lot of women, going to a lot of the events that we have to go to be scouted and, to get feedback. A lot of the times it was like 5 out of 100, so it's pretty clear that there weren't a lot of women, and especially as we continue to move up the ladder, the percentage goes down. And fortunately, in the U.S., they've done a really good job about trying to scout women and develop women all over the country. So the numbers are increasing, but it definitely was interesting to experience a world where it's pretty strongly dominated by men. And you kind of have to find your way, and you experience a lot of things that you haven't experienced before, and no one's able to really kind of help you with because they don't understand or they don't know. And fortunately, recently, over the last couple of years, there have been a few women in the U.S. who have gotten opportunities, who've earned opportunities at the international stage as well as the professional stage. And so them kind of setting the tone now gives me something to look at and to see as like this is a possibility. Unfortunately for me, I was able to see that during that journey, where it's obviously for them, they probably didn't necessarily have that role model within the state.
Pretty cool. And I think, is that the end goal for you? You hope to maybe be able to referee a World Cup one day? Is that like the big mamma jamma?
Yeah, that's the ultimate goal. It's a very long process to get there, and it takes a lot of work, but I'm willing to do it. And I hope, that I'm blessed and able to be appointed to a World Cup at some point. That definitely is the ultimate goal. I think for all of us who get to this point in our career, once you get selected to be a FIFA referee, it's kind of like now you're starting over, and now you're, looking at a new stage and new goals and new dreams, and it takes even more work than before. So, yeah.
Well, what do you say to all the parents or grandparents who have young women in their families who love the game of soccer, but maybe their career is coming to an end, whether it's in, ending out high school, or maybe they make it to the collegiate level, but then obviously it may start to dwindle. At what point, if they thought about, this being another option, like you didn't know, but you're fulfilling, when should they start getting interested in it?
I would say start now. Like, if you're over the age of 14, you can certify as a referee with U.S. Soccer in your state, and you don't have to do it all the time. You don't have to do it full time. You take a class, they do a background check, and you're eligible to referee games. And it's pretty much up to your availability. Whenever you're able to do it, they'll give you games in your local area. Like I said, for me, I was still playing soccer when I first started refereeing, so I didn't referee a lot at the beginning because I was traveling for games, practice, and I was also in school. It wasn't until I graduated high school and I made the decision that I wasn't going to play collegiate soccer that I started to spend a lot more time refereeing. But at the beginning, it was really more of like a few days a week, or maybe even a few days a month. But like I said, it's never too early. It's a lot of flexibility. You can make, pretty decent amount of money on the side too if you're in school. And it keeps you a part of the game. So if you're, at that point where you're no longer going to play, or you're not going to play collegiately, you still can be a part of the game at a high level as a referee.
Real quick, Alyssa, what's your favorite moment by being a FIFA referee now, since you've been one?
So I've only been one for 30 days. So I actually have not done a game yet because we're in preseason.
Just getting the call was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but getting the call itself was for sure a dream come true. And we just recently had camp, like a preseason camp where we go and we have to run a fitness test and all these things.
Hey,
So
Alyssa,
just
hang out
being
with
able.
us. Hey, hang on, and we'll be right back, okay? We got more with Alyssa
Okay.
Nichols coming up next. TV.com. And for the first time ever, a Mississippi woman is a referee for FIFA professional soccer matches. Alyssa Nichols continues with us here on Good Things. Alyssa, we've got some soccer fans on our text line. Jeff from Oxford is a big one, and he wants to know where you're going to referee now. I know 30 days in, but are you going to NWSL or MLS games? I don't know any of this. I'm trusting that you do.
Yes. So I will be refereeing in NWSL, which is the women's professional league in the United States, as well as Major League Soccer, which is MLS. I am now rostered as a fourth official. I am not registered or rostered as a referee, but that's, like I said, that's another goal as well, is to be an on-field official in Major League Soccer. But right now, I will be a fourth official in Major League Soccer.
Pretty cool. You mentioned you guys were headed to training camp, and at first my limited knowledge was like, oh, they go and watch all the soccer players at training camp. How fun is that? And then I realized, no, like the rest have to be equally fit because you guys do a lot of running up and down the field, I assume, with the athletes. So I think, explain to us what all goes into being a professional referee, because I feel like it's more than just knowing the game.
Yes. So we have a sports scientist that we are assigned who provides us workouts throughout the week. So I work out roughly 5 to 6 days a week, having 1 day of non-active rest and then 1 day of active rest, which is technically still a workout day. And then we have games roughly once or twice a week during the season, where we have match prep. So we watch film of the teams that we're going to referee. We analyze the footage, and it helps us to prepare for the match. We usually fly in to the match the day before, and then we leave the day after. So that's a rough estimate of what my weeks normally look like. When we went to training camp, we essentially went over the laws of the game, which is what we use to make decisions on the field. We talked about considerations, the best way to come to those decisions. We also watched film of our previous year's performances, things we did well, things we need to improve on. We have to run a fitness test that is sanctioned by FIFA, and we have a pro sports scientist who puts the test on for us and are there, and they administer the test. And then, we go home after the camp. And we do preseason games. So the MLS teams and the NWSL teams play preseason games to get prepared for the season. And we are usually the referees who also referee those games so that we can also get prepared for the season.
So a lot more goes into it than some, I think, give referees in general sort of credit for, right?
Yes, a lot more.
I always get nervous for friends or anyone who wants to just even do the referee for the little leagues around town, regardless of the sport, because it can be really contentious, and I feel very sorry for the people who have to be making the tough decisions. So I can't imagine it being any better when, it's at a professional level. How do you deal with that? I mean, not everybody's happy about what you choose to say or call or whatever it may be.
Yeah. So for me, it's just I enjoy being on the field. I try not to take too much of what people say, the fans say, to heart. I know that I'm a human being and that I make mistakes just like everybody else. And I'm okay to admit when I've made a mistake. But I just try not to take it to heart. So when people say things, I usually realize that they probably don't recognize at this moment that I am a human being. They think I'm a robot and that I am perfect. So I usually try to give them the benefit of the doubt in that way, and I don't take it to heart. But a lot of it, when I do make mistakes, a lot of that is just kind of self-reflection. And I have a 24-hour rule that I give myself. So it's you have 24 hours after the game to be sad, to be angry, to experience all the emotions that you want. And then after that 24-hour period, you have to let it go. And now we prep for the next opportunity.
Which you've got a lot of those ahead of you. And I'm assuming it's your past opportunities that whoever decides to call up referees into the FIFA world, sort of look out. How does that even work? I know it takes a lot of, I guess, on-hand experience or on-field experience over time, but how did you get the call? How do you even put your name in the hat for that, or do you?
So you don't really have an option of putting your name in the hat. It's more of you're identified and then you're selected, so you can't apply for it. But essentially the way it works is every game that we do on the professional stage is assessed. So there's someone from either FIFA, CONCACAF, or U.S. Soccer or Pro who are either in stadium or they're watching the game virtually, and they grade us based off of our decisions. And then from there, you move up the ranks. So you go from a regional referee to a national referee to then a professional referee and then a FIFA referee. So they determine if you should be nominated. So then you're nominated by your country. So U.S. Soccer then, nominated me to be a part of the FIFA panel for the U.S. And then you are essentially assessed by CONCACAF, which is the regional governing body. So they're over the Caribbean, the North America, and Central America. So then they watch you, they assess you, then they say, okay. So they approve you to be nominated. And then FIFA then also does the same process. And then they check off and say, okay, you've been approved and you've officially been appointed to the panel. So it's a pretty long process. You get notified months before that you are in the process and that you've been nominated, and you have to, supply some health things. You have to do a physical exam. You have to run a fitness test. And then from there, they tell you at each checkpoint what the decision is. And then at the final decision, they then send you the email that you have now officially been appointed to the FIFA panel for the U.S.
New respect for the referees, man, because, they can't pass out on the field. That'd be a terrible thing, and you have to be able to, keep up. I never really thought about that, so I think that's really interesting. Yeah. I just wanted to go back to, your days at Murrah High and then being a young soccer player. It feels like the sport of soccer in U.S. has really exploded over probably the last 10, 15, 20 years, sort of for sure. But do you see more young women, more just young kids of diverse crowds getting into the sport of soccer? Because I feel like it's having its moment. Or at least here in Mississippi, it's having a moment.
Yeah. No, I think you hit it, on the head. I think there's a lot more diversity within the sport, within, the state of Mississippi and across the country, across the world. And I think that's because the sport is becoming more affordable for a lot of different groups. And I also think there's a lot of people that are giving back and that are investing in young people who want to play soccer, and giving them opportunities to play, like I said, outside of their state and allowing them to travel, which, gives them more opportunities. I definitely think the sport is growing in general across the United States, and I think it's going to continue to grow, especially because, the Men's World Cup the next Men's World Cup is going to be in the U.S., so I think that's going to be huge, and I think the sport is going to continue to grow even after that once people get to experience the World Cup in the United States.
In the trajectory, is there a chance you make it to that, or is that still too soon?
That would be a dream, but the process for World Cup start 4 years out, so I would just be shy of that window. But definitely, I hope that there's representation from the United States at the World Cup when it's here. But yeah, the process takes a long time. It starts 4 years from the event. So yeah, I wouldn't be eligible for that, but you never know.
You never know, but Alyssa, you'll at least go, right? With it being on home soil?
Yeah, I definitely will be there as a fan for sure.
Well, we're going to start a GoFundMe for Rhino because I can't let it come this close to him and him not be able to get a chance to go. But that's for a whole nother thing. But he is our big soccer lover here, so he's super proud of all you've accomplished for sure. And I know everybody else is as well. I think it's cool. You rock it, girlfriend. I appreciate your time. I would say, is there any way that we can, and even Jeff said, I'm so proud of Alyssa. I don't know. We're just so proud that you're out there. So when you make it to the World Cup, will you at least let good things know? We will be happy to sort of spread your joy about your next accomplishment.
For sure.
All righty.
I definitely will.
Go Rocket, girlfriend. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
All righty. Rhino, how did I do? I felt like you should have been doing that interview and not me, as I know that you are our resident love of soccer. But like I said, I love it now, or try to get to love it because you do. And then, too, when you start to understand the stories and the people behind it and all the Mississippians doing really cool things, you can't help but to have an affection for it. It's a cool sport. It's very layered.
I mean, they call it the beautiful game for a reason.
They do. Yes, but it is the only sport that I tried out for in high school and didn't make. Mama's not coordinated. Not coordinated. And you need a lot of that in the feet to sort of be successful. But I think I did all right. All right, stick with us. We got more for you coming up next.